Good morning, everybody. My name is Bruce Sinclair, and as one of the co-chairs of the event, I'd like to welcome you to gogoNET Live. First, I'd like to thank our on-site attendees, but a big part of this conference is also online, so I'd like to thank them for joining us as well. I'd like to thank our speakers. We have 30 speakers and workshop instructors who are some of the best IPv6 minds in the industry. I'd like to also thank our sponsors, Cisco, A10 Networks, Juniper, Blue Cat, and F5, because without these sponsors, we wouldn't be able to produce the show. So gogoNET Live is a mashup of a traditional conference and social media. And we use social media to improve the conference in a number of different ways. A traditional conference comes and goes after a couple days. It's generally a broadcast model where you have a speaker like myself up on a podium communicating one way to the attendees. But what we try to do with social media is a few things. The first thing we try to do is open up complete access to the speakers. And the way we do this is you can contact the speakers by going to the agenda, clicking on their profile, making contact with them. You might want to talk to them about their presentation. You might have questions about their expertise. But in any case, every one of them is on the gogoNET social network, and that's the purpose of the social network, is to be able to communicate between professionals learning IPv6. Also, between attendees that are here at the show. Just like you can go to the agenda, see the speakers, you can also go to the gogoNET Live group on gogoNET, and you can see everybody that I think there's 60-odd people, 70, 80 people that are signed up there. You can make connections with them, and that's really good if you want to meet them before, during, or after the show. And again, this doesn't have to be just on site. There's a lot of people that are part of the group, the conference, that actually are signing in. They helped with defining the conference, but they're actually not physically here. We also use a social network to amplify the audience. And generally the amplification is around 100 to 1. So in the last couple years, we've had a total of around 200 conference attendees, not including this year. And using social media, we've increased that to around 22,000 what we're calling on-site attendees. Now what this means is effectively they are going through these presentations and watching them. If you look at statistically, again, this is from August of this year, so August of 2012, 22,000 unique online viewers watched around 27,000 presentations, 27,000 presentations, both on YouTube and on gogoNET. So this is also a very useful resource, again, using social media to amplify what we're doing here, but mostly we're playing to the internet. Another thing that we use social media for is to actually define the direction of the conference and the content. I'll be introducing our keynote speaker in a few moments, and actually he actually made a suggestion in the gogoNET Live group of what the theme of the conference should be. This was after a bunch of discussion. After we came up with a theme online, we then defined what the presentation structure should be, what the content of the conference should be. So this is all happening in the gogoNET Live working group. We put it up on June 13th, and we had around 88 members that were contributing to both defining the conference and the theme and the agenda of the conference. So the theme of the conference this year is enterprise-wide adoption, a holistic approach. Because of that, I thought I'd give you a few statistics from our social network, members from our social network that are involved in enterprise. So 17% of the registered members, and we have 80,000 registered members for gogoNET, are involved in moving. The network that they're moving to IPv6 is the enterprise network. Compared to, say, 34% for broadband. In the mobile space, it's 13%. You can see enterprise at 17%. Government, it's a little bit larger now because we only started breaking out government from enterprise a few months ago, but that's coming in at 1%, research and education, and then also companies that are moving their services or their websites to IPv6, and then finally companies or individuals that are developing IPv6 products. That makes up almost 10% of the breakdown of the members. So everybody here is going to fall into one of these categories, and one thing that you can do in gogoNET is actually search for others. You can zoom down pretty closely. So for example, if you're moving a product to IPv6 and you want to meet others that are in your city, you could do a search for products. You know, the specialty is we're moving an IPv6 product, and in, let's say, San Jose, California, and for sure you'll get a number of people that'll come up. And this is really the strength of using the social network. Now, if we look at what the jobs are, what the professions are for people that are moving enterprise, it's kind of a little bit all over the place, and it could be as much as an issue of what we're asking as what the real job descriptions are, job titles are. But mostly it's mostly network engineers, system administrators, software developers, and you can see around a 15 to 85% breakdown from students moving enterprise networks to IPv6 versus 85% for professionals. Geographically, this is a little bit interesting. If we look at where enterprise networks are being moved to IPv6, you can see by far RIPE, you know, so in Europe. So I've broken down the membership by the different RIRs, and by far almost half of all the members that have stated they're moving their enterprise network to IPv6 are coming from Europe, followed by Asia, which is again a little bit more, what I would expect, a little bit more likely, and I would think it would be a little bit higher given the address depletion in Asia occurred earlier than just recently in Europe, and then followed by, you know, the North America and the regions around that by 20%, and then finally both Latin America and Africa. I think more interesting is where are people in the migration to IPv6. So the way that we break it up is that we look at 5 different categories. Researching IPv6, so this is just the very beginning. This is doing the internet searches, this is maybe taking courses, this is the very early stages. Once you get a little bit of knowledge up, the next step is actually testing IPv6. So generally what people are doing are building a home network. Ironically, even though IPv6 is looming, most companies, and in this case most enterprises, will not give their IT or the networking professionals the time at work to move to IPv6. And these guys know that they're going to be the ones that are going to be responsible. So 75% of our members are actually starting by moving their home networks, you know, to IPv6. So you might be doing the same thing as well. So building a test network, after that, actually doing a trial, and this can mean different things, specifically in the enterprise context, deploying it, and then in production. As you can see, by far, and this mimics actually each of the different network types that are moved to IPv6, but by far, people today, anyway, are in the testing phase. Which is good news, because when we were doing this at the beginning 2 years ago, the very big part of the bulk was in the research phase. So you can see this crest of the wave, theoretically anyway, will move over time from the researching stage to the in production stage. So our agenda for the conference is the same at a high level as we normally do. So our first day, many of you maybe were here for the workshop. So we had 4 fantastic workshops ranging from absolute beginners to absolute experts. I'd like to thank again our workshop instructors. And then today the way we're going to start off is after my introduction, I'm going to introduce our keynote speaker. We're going to then move through some case studies. So these are from folks that have actually been there, done that, you know, and specifically a case study starting in the government. Again, another form of enterprise, then doing some organizational case studies, another panel of case studies for moving the enterprise to IPv6. And then this is the part that we generally define on the social network, is the functional presentation. So we define what are the steps are important to move to IPv6, and then we select and we find speakers that are experts in each of those steps. Those functional steps will occur today. they'll continue tomorrow. And then we also have from our sponsors vendor presentations, which is also very important because it's one thing obviously to research how you're going to move to IPv6, but you need to often buy purchase products to allow you to transition to IPv6 as well.